Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us here on Sunrise. Now, as the island awaits the announcement of another general election, which is constitutionally due this year, tough questions are indeed surfacing about what citizens should expect from their members of parliament and what MPs are actually delivering. Well, Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, JAMP, Jeanette Calder, she joins us to break down what voters need to know and why this election could be a turning point in how we hold parliamentarians accountable. Once again, welcome, Jeanette.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, thank you for the work that you continue to do.
Appreciate
sometimes
that.
It's thankless, sometimes it goes under the radar.
It does.
But thank you for doing it.
You brought me over the radar this morning, so thank you.
Well, first of all, it is difficult, I think, for us to judge what the average member of the polity understands the role of representatives to be if that role is not clarified. Is that role becoming increasingly clarified?
I would say not for the citizen. I would say certainly maybe for the parliamentarian. So, for example, we had, I think, about 20 new MPs coming in the last time around. That's a lot. And the Prime Minister did something I really commend him for, which is to get training both locally and overseas. These were new parliamentarians. So that kind of move makes a difference. I'm really here, however, interested in the citizens who JAMP sees as, and we really are, the employer. Voting is really a mechanism to employ 63 public officials. We finance their salary. That makes us, again, their employers. We finance all the programs and projects, Dennis, that they will be doing. And we own all of the assets that they will be stewarding, and they're doing all of that for us. So it really becomes important if you stop and think about it. Owner of the assets, financier, and employer. And we are not clear as to what the job duties are when they go to the office, which is Parliament or even to the constituency. So JAMP believes that the Prime Minister, having made a promise 2 years ago to provide those job descriptions, we are just here to give him a nudge and to remind him and to ask for it to be done before the elections.
Do you see this job description matter as a fundamental accountability matter? Because how do we hold anybody accountable if...
We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been testing it because I knew this interview was coming up, and I managed to talk to 2 gas station attendants and 2 cashiers, and we say, of course we have job interview, ma'am. It is, I think, the most fundamental tool for holding anybody to account. Everybody in studio here probably has one. I have one.
Right.
So what the Prime Minister had indicated is that this is something he had instructed the government to provide from 2019. And in 2021, he had a draft. It really came to the fore because of the massive increase in salaries for MPs. And let's be fair, everybody on set and everybody listening would know I don't get a doubling of my salary unless it is tied to my performance. And what Jamaica saw, Dennis, was whether or not parliamentarians are in the office to Parliament 30% of the time for the year, which some are, or 90% of the time for the year, which some are, they all got the same salary. So the Prime Minister really came out and said, listen, the job description will provide, as well, we will follow that up with what? The performance measurements and an accountability framework. We're not going to have time to get all of that before the election. But before I employ somebody come and knock on my gate and say, Jeanette, give me the work, I should be able to look at this, Dennis. And for the first time in the history of Jamaica, I should be empowered to have a conversation about his or her competence based on what's in my hand and make a choice between the 2 candidates based on the job and what they're able to do.
Here's one of my challenges, and I want you to address it for me.
Sure.
So, in my years of following politics and studying political science, what I've been acutely aware of is that there are different kinds of politicians. There are different kinds of MPs. And so there may be an MP who is awesome in the Parliament.
See where you're going.
They're awesome in the House.
Correct.
And if you follow, I mean, I used to follow it much more, but when you follow Parliament on a Tuesday, or when I was a parliamentary reporter, when you sit in the gallery and you watch them, you say, this is one of the best parliamentarians I've ever seen.
Fair enough.
When you go in his constituency and then say, we don't like him, or we don't see him, or he doesn't come to the the 9-night, or he's not accessible. There are others who it's the reverse. They are excellent on the ground, and you never hear them in Parliament. You can't think
never
of
know
one.
what their voice sounds like.
Exactly. You can't think of one contribution that they made, but they're going back to the people, and they're going to be re-elected every time because on the ground they are great. And then there are other parliamentarians who they are great in the executive
cabinet, yes,
and they need a seat in order to get into the executive,
to make policy
to be
on
great.
behalf of the people.
And
correct,
so because it's not like we're dealing with a congressional district and a senator in the U.S. or a congressman in the U.S., it's different. When we don't have the separation of powers, how do you find a job description that takes into consideration and gives due weighting to the parliamentarians who are good at different things about being a parliamentarian?
But I think what you described a while ago is true of you and I. There's nothing on our job description that we are equally good at, and all the strengths are there.
Correct.
But don't miss what the Prime Minister is saying. I'm not just going to be giving you a job description, but I'm also going to be giving you the performance measurements as well as the accountability. So if you don't meet the standards for performance, whether it is in the constituency, as you pointed out, or in the Parliament, there will be a tool that will be able to, you have weightings precisely. And what gets really exciting is the Prime Minister had even gone as far as saying this: we are going to have accountability reports. If I may quote the PM, state of the constituency presentations are not enough. I am going to set up a committee whereby the MPs are going to have to indicate what they're going to do, what they have achieved, and not only providing it to a committee in the Parliament, but the public must have access for review. I believe at the end of the day, if we have the job descriptions, it's actually even going to help the MPs who are weak in a particular area, because they get to see exactly what the targets are, get better at it, because that's what happens. However, let me hasten to say that my personal opinion, and for one who has studied political science and reported on Parliament, we need to begin to get the job descriptions, because I think that will create the shift that is necessary between the job of the councillor and the job of the MP.
And the MP getting blamed for what the councillor didn't do.
And probably sometimes should do, right? But you see, we have a culture in Jamaica where the first thing we do is run to the MP. I am of the view, particularly looking at the draft job description, because let's be fair to the Prime Minister, he drafted it, tabled it, got a joint select together. It's not like anything had not been done.
Correct.
JAMP's concern is that for the last 15 months, nothing has moved. But I say that to say, the MP, I believe, can really do a lot more sustainable work for their constituents by making good policy, good projects, and good programs in the House, more sustainable, than worrying about a $20 million spend in the Constituency Development Fund. You understand what I'm saying? So a good policy that is going to bring water to a scheme, or local development initiatives, public-private partnerships between a local business and the CDC in the area, sustainable development and growth, as opposed to being concerned about a one little pop of a $20 million a year, which the councillors can handle. I believe the conversation will open up about that proper balance between the councillor and the MP if we begin to have the job descriptions for both.
Do you think that there's a concern, maybe even a fear, that this job description narrative is really being advanced ahead of a move for constitutional reform, which introduces the right of recall of MPs?
Well, I sincerely hope so with all of my heart. I mean, the A in JAMP is for accountability. And since we're talking about people who are the employers, the financiers, and the owners, let's get real here. Do you know of any owner, employer, and financier who, if the employee is not performing, has to wait 5 years to say, I'm sorry, we're not going to take you back? That's not going to happen. If any of us in the studio had a contract where, regardless of how we perform, Dennis, we're going to get the money, we're going to get a doubling, how does that modify behavior? It's human beings we're talking about here. So yes, we are hoping that this is another way in which will open the door to that conversation. Doesn't have to be impeachment, doesn't have to be recall, But as I speak, there are MPs who on average come to the office 30% of the time for the year. And I will
Some
remind
less,
your listeners.
some below the average.
Well, JAMP tracks it, and the worst we have seen is about 37% a year.
Okay.
But I just want to hurry to let your viewers know that 2021, the opposition had retabled the bill that Bruce Golding had tabled in 2011 for us to be able to remove parliamentarians who are not performing. It has been sitting there now for 4 years without anything moving on it. So yes, we are hoping the JD, which the Prime Minister promised 2 years ago, saying it would be implemented in 2 years. We are 2 months shy of that deadline. And I hope he's listening this morning.
You optimistic?
Only if the viewers recognize that this phone in their hand, JAMP saying it and Dennis talking about it is not enough. And you and I live in a time where Kodjo Taki, Nani, George William Bogle, and all those guys were trying to talk to the Queen 9,000 miles away, didn't have a phone. Everybody listening now who said, boy, Dennis and Jeanette, a chat sense, you know, this could be a good experiment. Pick up your phone. Prime Minister makes himself accessible. 7 little words is what we need to be the game changer. And it's not Jeanette, it is promise must be kept. JDs before election. How that sound?
Right.
It can't be any easier than that.
All right.
And then I will be more hopeful.
Thank you very much. My guest has been Jeanette Calder, the
you.
Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, keeping us informed.
And accountable.
And accountable. After the break.